some ancient writers shared modern critics' concerns about undue interest in the paranormal, though not typically for exactly the same radical Enlightenment reasons, he says. One writer whose critique of traditional monotheistic religions sounds almost modern is the late 2nd century physician Galen. He denounced, among the other contemporary positions, the view of Moses, according to which God is not bound by the orderly process of nature. Galen preferred the rational choices of the God of nature, the true evidence of providence, to the irrational ideas of a deity working contrary to the normal courses of nature, right? So that's why we know miracles can't happen, because God has to suspend nature. You know, that's always seems to be the claim of why the miracles can't happen. We have to lovingly correct, no, it's not a suspension of nature. It's just continuing to work out in nature. It's a force, a being, a mind acting in nature. It's not a suspension of nature.
Yeah. So this, what he's noting here is that Galen was skeptical about miracles. So we can't go back and say all of these people believed everything and they, no, there were some that were skeptical. Now notice he makes the point, he says, nevertheless, most writers in late antiquity, including Christian writers, applied the phrase contrary to nature that Galen here was dealing with only to people contravening moral law or the norms of reason established by nature, but they didn't apply it to miracles. So he's suggesting that when they talked about it back here, contrary to nature, they were talking about people acting contrary to the laws of nature with regard to morality and not the physical law, right? So that's a point that's kind of interesting here that he makes. He says, lacking sufficient knowledge of empirical science, some ancient writers came up with naturalistic alternatives for explaining natural phenomena that differed from traditional religious explanations, the way that they offered. And most of the, even the polytheistic contemporaries. So these folks didn't really have empirical science down like we do, but, they did come up with what we could look back on and say, maybe they were attempting naturalistic explanations to some of these things. So again, he's highlighting that not all ancient historians and writers accepted everything that they were told with regard to these miraculous events.